This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning, and we take a look at the political pieces we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 6th of August 2020, and I am DM.
I'm JM.
And I'm GK, and in case you missed the headlines, here they are. In the Daily Nation, RAILA, how will break revenue stalemate. In the Standard, out you go, Jubilee tells Ruto allies. And in the Star, RAILA'S 2022 power plan.
Yes.
Seems RAILA is dominating some of these headlines. Let's begin with the Daily Nation.
Yes, he told the Daily Nation that it's time to go back to the drawing board when it comes to implementing the revenue allocation formula. And the thing that is worth noting in this story is that Raila is retracting, I suppose, his earlier statement that he had given about 2 weeks ago, where he was a bit vague, but his supporters in the coast and in the northeastern provinces, counties rather, interpreted his statement as supporting the formula that was being presented by the Senate committee. So he has retracted it and said that he had not been fully briefed after he came from receiving treatment, and now his position is that we should go back to the drawing board and that the current formula as is should remain, and then we should work towards reaching a win-win situation where no county loses.
So he's asking us for compromise.
He's asking for a compromise.
Yeah, but guys, DP told us last week, and he urged Senate to find a middle ground, to find compromise. Nobody listened. And it's only till Raila comes out and says it that now people are paying attention.
Perhaps you need to be former Prime Minister for your words to have weight. But at least in giving us his reason or excuse, he didn't say he was intoxicated like Sonko did. But what I'm also reading in this story and the stances that politicians are taking is that we are now in the season of pandering and populism, which
to your electorate,
absolutely, and populism is the worst disease a politician can suffer from, because you need to. When you suffer from it, you suspend logic temporarily in exchange for public love, which is also temporary.
Yeah, it's true. You are 100% right there. In the Standard, out you go, Jubilee tells Ruto allies.
Yes, so in the Standard, top-placed sources of the party have revealed the nominated senators Millicent Omanga, Mary Seneta, Falhada Iman, Naomi Wako and Alice Milgo will next week be expelled from the party for openly defying their party leader during the State House meeting in the month of May, where they were to meet to ratify the removal of Senators Murkomen and Susan Kihika from their leadership positions. They basically didn't attend those meetings, and they didn't show any cause not to attend. And so the NEC has sat, and they're within their rights set out in Article 13 of the Jubilee Party Constitution. And we're told that Jubilee intends to submit fresh names from the party list to replace those axed senators.
They should forgive them. You know, these guys were in extenuating circumstances. We can guess that if they were called to State House and they did not go, perhaps they were nominated senators courtesy of the deputy president. So they were caught between a rock and a hard place. If they're repentant, just let them stay.
No. These people should be axed. They should be shown no mercy whatsoever.
For they will show you none.
It's politics in the end.
It is. So in the Star, RAILA'S 2022 power plan. And here the Star tells us 4 things. One, that there has been betrayal. Raila has betrayed his previous allies, Musalia Mudavadi, Kalonzo, and Moses Wetangula. And that now he has refocused his energies on inheriting Uhuru Kenyatta's central vote, that bloc. But also that he's creating these sort of new kingpins in the Luhya nation by the name of Wycliffe Oparanya and Eugene Wamalwa. So he has, forced some others out and trying to build up others. And he says that this might work because they have the backing of Atuli. So de facto leaders are being made there, apparently. But then John Badi also goes on to tell us that Raila is holding his cards close, and that we might find ourselves having very surprising new coalitions in the run-up to 2022. And then the last statement, which is from Wiper Vice Chairman Victor Swanya, who says that Raila can change his narrative of betrayal and Uhuru Kenyatta by supporting Kalonzo Musyoka in 2022. So if they rally with him and prop him up as the candidate, all will be forgiven.
All will be forgiven.
Raila will definitely be on the ballot in 2022.
You think so?
If
He
all things
will.
remain constant.
Well, listen, the thing about coalitions is that they must be beneficial to all. So if NASA died, it meant that it didn't have everyone's best interests at heart. And so we'll see which new coalitions will form.
Also, if the political iteration will remain the same, or rather the governance, if we're going to have an expanded executive, then these coalitions will change.
Yes, and like we've said before, betrayal is a part of politics, so this is something we expect. We might even expect new handshakes. Who knows? Someone might do handshake with the deputy president in the very near future.
Maybe the one who does the handshake with the deputy president will be the president.
Put that on. We will note that. So we have a 3-part criteria that we're going to use to break down those headlines. We will ask ourselves whether it is topical or speculative, whether they are repetitive or groundbreaking, and whether they are thoughtful or just plain lazy.
Yeah.
I quite like the RAILA'S 2022 power plan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Food for thought there, but I also like out you go. Jubilee tells Ruto allies. So
I
Jeremy,
like that one, it's punchy.
which one are we taking? The
Standard.
Standard or the Star?
The Standard.
Standard?
Yeah.
There you have it. Standard gives us our winning headline. Onto the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country, where we also have a 3-part criteria. We ask ourselves, is it humorous or dry? Is it satirical or pessimistic? And is it effective or just plain lazy?
Yeah.
Shall we begin with the Daily Nation?
In the Daily Nation, there are 2 carpenters in the caricatures of Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. And there's a block of wood there that used to be a square peg, but it has been chipped off to make a round end so that it can fit into the Senate. And you can see that Raila and Uhuru are continuing to be busy there with another block of wood. So I suppose the cartoon suggests that despite the 2 attempts in the Senate to pass the revenue allocation proposal, they've been unsuccessful for the 7th time.
Senate is not boarding.
So Senate is a round hole, and Uhuru and Raila are giving them a square peg.
Yeah.
But they're chipping it to fit. To fit.
Let's park it in the Standard.
Yes, so this cartoon depicts Raila Odinga playing cards. In his hand are 4 cards with Mudavadi, Wetangula, Ruto and Kalonzo on them. And he appears to be choosing what card to play next. So this cartoon, I think, depicts Raila's formidable position as the opposition leader whom all these other perennial candidates are constantly gravitating
He's a
around.
perennial candidate himself.
Yes, he is the chief perennial candidate. But I don't know if Ruto is really one of the options here, one of his options, but
Always, Jen.
I think
everybody
you
is
can't
an
count him out.
option.
I think you can't count him out.
Yeah.
But then it also this strategy could backfire if the handshake with the president collapses. So he has these cards in his hands, but is this only predicated on goodwill from
the president?
We don't know.
If let me just give you my 2 cents on this one. If Ruto does not make it for 2022, in other words, if he doesn't get the backing of the Gema community, I think he'll have to sit it out, run for president himself. It'd be better for him to run for president as Kibaki did in 1992, and then cook a little bit outside, and then eventually hope to come back in.
Cook a little bit.
Cook what? Cook himself or
cook himself for about 10
something.
years.
Prepare yourself.
10 more years, and then he'll come back in. But if he decides to enter a coalition with Raila to become deputy president or something like that, that's going to be the end of his political career.
All right, food for thought there. In the Star, we have a very somber cartoon from Ozone, and it says Beirut, and there's a candle there in memory of all these people who lost their lives, and it says #Pray for Lebanon, which we will. Yeah. So there was an explosion that sent shockwaves through the Lebanese capital, killing at least 135 people, injuring 5,000 more, and more than 300,000 people lost their homes. And the video is I mean, that have been coming out of there are ridiculous. They, just showing the magnitude of that blast. So yeah, we keep them in our prayers. So we won't toss that one. We'll just keep it. But let's choose between Gado and the Daily Nation.
I quite like the cards that Raila is holding in Gado's cartoon and how the politicians have been depicted.
Yes, and Raila's very big hand there.
Yeah.
Okay, so can we give it to the Standard?
Yeah.
Gado
double win.
Winning cartoon. And now for our final thought, but before we get there, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
And now our final thought. Today we're inspired by the book Big Data, a very short introduction by Dawn E. Holmes. So long before computers were even thought of, data was collected by all cultures in the world, really. But when the internet came and became a reality in many parts of the world, the sheer amount of data generated every day, in fact, every minute, has become huge and continues to grow exponentially. So in this book, the author uses case studies to describe how data is collected, how data is stored, and how it is analyzed, and even how it is exploited by different kinds of entities, by governments, by companies, and by organizations concerned with disease control. So speaking of disease control, now that we're in particularly interesting times in the midst of a pandemic, there's a chapter where she talks about big data and medicine. And she focuses on the year 2009, when Google decided to help the American government in predicting the yearly flu epidemic, the normal flu. So there's a yearly epidemic, but it comes about in different times. Now, the Center for Disease Control, or CDC in America, which is the public health monitoring agency, had been struggling to predict the next flu epidemic. And this is because they would collect data from clinics, from health practitioners, but by the time they got that data, analyzed it, and then applied it, it was already too late. An epidemic would already have started and progressed. So Google came in to give them real-time data and to increase the accuracy of data collection. And they're going to do this by using, of course, their search engine. So they were using the variables that people, as variables, they were using what people would input when they think they have a cold. So people would search flu symptoms or cold remedies and so on and so forth. But additionally, Google could get the IP addresses of the people who were searching, and so they were able to determine the geographical location of the searches. And also, in addition, they had so much retrospective data way back to 2003 that they could use to collate and then predict the next year's epidemic. It failed miserably, surprisingly. So it failed to deliver. The algorithm that they used actually over-predicted the number of flu patients in that year by 50%. And 50% is a whole lot. So it failed for many reasons, but I'll highlight one. The Google team intentionally excluded some search terms because of the expectations of the research team. So they had expectations before they even went out to the field, and that is what affected their selection of the variables. For instance, in previous CDC surveys, they had found that the flu spikes during high school basketball seasons. But that is a variable that Google did not catch because they just limited it to what they had what their expectations were and what the search engine limited the words. So what this section of the book tells us is that big data, yes, is valuable. And a company like Google perhaps has the biggest data in terms of real time. But all that data is not useful if you do not process it. If you do not process it correctly. And in this situation, it was the variables that let them down. That were wrong.
Oh, interesting. And so every click you make on the internet is collected and used for targeted advertising. Every time you click, someone is making use of that click. One of the big things that she tells us about big data is that businesses that have grown, some of the biggest businesses we know, are using really sophisticated sophisticated algorithms
Yeah.
to create bigger markets for themselves. So she says that they use recommender systems and collaborative filtering. So recommender systems provide a filtering mechanism by which information is provided to users based on their interests. So Amazon and Netflix have done this remarkably well. In fact, for Netflix, this is the heart of their business model.
Yeah.
So for Netflix, they employ actually human beings, 40 around the world, who watch movies all day, lucky them.
Wow.
And they tag the content, labeling them as science fiction, comedy, thriller, romantic, whatever. And this is how the films get categorized, using human judgment. But then later on, they employ now a computer algorithm to then make better recommendations for you. And so Netflix not only keeps a records of how long you watch something, whether you finish watching something, whether you fast forward over some bits, those are all useful things that they use to make recommendations for you. And if you watch Netflix, you always see whether it's a 98% chance you'll like the film or a 70% chance, and they're usually quite accurate. I've been testing it myself. The other thing that is used is collaborative filtering. Amazon is really good at this, and so they use algorithm based. They look at every time you buy a book. And they put it in a database and see what other people who bought the book you have bought, what other books they might have bought. And then therefore they make a recommendation based on that, right? And this is the best thing. The future for Amazon is so big that they've done what they call anticipatory shipping. So based on big data analytics, they're able to pre-ship certain books and products to your area based on your buying behavior. And that means when you eventually click buy, it can get to you very quickly. So Amazon filed for a patent on autonomous flying drone delivery service called Prime Air. Now Prime Air, this was in 2016, Prime Air means that you could get your package within 30 minutes. Just based on how you've been shopping previously, they know what you would like, and therefore it's ready for you for it to be there on time. Now the interesting thing is the future of it will be that your fridge one day will be able to communicate to a store nearby that your milk is running low, and it would be able to order it without you having to do anything, and you would find a drone come and drop the milk off.
Now the problem with that, GK, is if my fridge orders milk and I don't have money, how am I going to pay?
So it's all interlinked. That's the other thing. So those are the downsides, right? Maybe you put a limit on your card or something like that, but that's the downside of such things. Amazon also has a convenience store, one of a kind in Seattle, where you would walk in, put stuff in your cart, go into a transition area, and then walk right out without needing to do a checkout thing. And that's the future of shopping. No need to carry money around. And they also, every time you pick up something off the shelf, they know what you've bought and they can recommend things based on that. So it was pretty interesting.
We're living in an age where all these platforms and the internet at large know us better than we even know ourselves.
It's true.
Scary.
It's scary. It is. I'll talk about data and entrepreneurship. And something that becomes very apparent is that you don't have to be a data expert to make money from it. Anyone can spot new opportunities to create value from the data around them, and all you need is just the right mindset, an entrepreneurial mindset, to see a gap in the market and then see how data can fill in that gap. And so you can use data creatively to start an enterprise. One such individual, I'll give two examples. One such individual is Bradford Cross. In his mid-20s, he started the website Flightcaster with a group of friends. And they combined publicly available data on flight times and historical weather records in order to predict delays in flights across the US airspace. Their predictions became so accurate that even airline employees began referring to their site to check on their own scheduled flights, solving a problem using big data, and you don't have to be a big data expert, so to speak. Another example, Decide.com. It was built also around some of these principles, and their computer system records 25 billion price quotes for over 4 million products from e-commerce sites across the web. And by analyzing that information, they don't just provide users with the cheapest price, but also advise them on the best time to buy a product, predicting if and when prices are likely to rise or fall. So once again, just aggregating lots of data,
Yeah.
putting those into a comparative sort of algorithm, and then giving the customer a one-stop kind of shop space where they can compare prices and make decisions.
Yeah.
And it's really remarkable, some of the opportunities, some of the problems that can be solved using all the data around us. And I have a feeling that we haven't even begun to go beyond scratching the surface
We haven't.
Yeah.
with all the data that we have, for example, in Safaricom,
Yes, yes.
with our banks and so on and so forth.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So on a day where we had a winning headline from the Standard and a winning cartoon from Dado of the Standard, I want to leave you with this. Big data and analytics is a market that will be worth, they say, $103 billion by 2023. Now, the world needs more data scientists, and right now there is a shortage, right? So if that's something you're looking into, please do. But information is the oil of the 21st century, and analytics is the combustion engine to get in place. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, but also find us on TV on GoTV, High Free and Star Times. Have a lovely evening.